The newly married man refused to consummate the marriage with his wife. Instead, he went to a pleasure house. During a military parade, a soldier accidentally dropped his badge, which angered Franz. He wanted to punish the soldier, but the captain of the guard stepped in to stop him. So Franz vented his anger by harshly punishing the captain instead. At that moment, Sisi rushed over to intervene. Franz felt his authority had been challenged and ordered an even more severe punishment for the captain. But Sisi, ignoring everyone's stares, put the captain into a carriage and took him away from the camp. This act completely humiliated Franz in public. Back at the country palace, Sisi sought out Franz to clear up the misunderstanding. Unexpectedly, Franz slapped her hand away harshly. From that moment on, a rift formed between them. That very night, Franz abandoned Sisi and went back to the pleasure house. Once again, Sisi spent the entire night alone until dawn. The next day, the Empress Dowager came to visit the newlyweds. She informed them that foreign envoys would arrive in 2 days. She wanted to know whether Sisi had mastered the required languages. In front of her mother-in-law, Sisi tried her best to maintain the appearance of a loving marriage. But Franz had no intention of forgiving her. As the Empress Dowager prepared to leave, Franz announced that he would accompany her and that Sisi would not attend. Sisi stared at Franz in shock. Then Franz and the Empress Dowager left without looking back. Watching the carriage disappear, Sisi felt a deep ache in her heart. She had believed she was marrying for love, but she had forgotten that her husband was an emperor, the ruler of an entire nation. An emperor was never meant to be bound by romance alone. Sisi decided to take on her responsibilities as empress and win Franz's respect once again. The next day, she abandoned her usual laid-back habits. She arrived early at the reception room, reading quietly as she waited for the countess to begin her lessons. Sisi quickly mastered the foreign languages needed to receive ambassadors and returned to the palace just in time for the official audiences. At the palace gates, Franz personally welcomed the empress. Nearby stood crowds of people eager to catch a glimpse of her. Facing the enthusiastic citizens, Sisi took out sweets she had prepared in advance and stepped forward to greet them. This was partly to return the people's affection and partly because Fanny was among the crowd. Ever since Fanny had been expelled from the palace by the countess, Sisi had kept her in her thoughts. She wanted Fanny to return to palace service, so she asked Fanny where she was living now. Fanny handed Sisi a note she had prepared earlier. After everything was settled, Sisi returned to Franz's side once more. By then, Franz's attitude had noticeably softened. Soon the audiences with foreign envoys began. Her kindness and grace lowered the Hungarian king's guard. He asked Sisi to grant him 2 requests. Instead of answering directly, Sisi asked him to seek Franz's approval first. Franz was stunned by Sisi's performance. He was even more shocked when the Hungarian king bowed to him out of respect for Sisi. Moved by the moment, Franz readily agreed to the king's requests. Just like that, Sisi not only resolved tensions that had plagued both nations for years, but also strengthened Franz's rule over Hungary. After everything was over, Sisi apologized for her earlier impulsive actions. This time, instead of scolding her, Franz felt a quiet sense of inferiority in the face of her brilliance. He praised Sisi and then prepared to leave, but Sisi stopped him. Since their wedding, the two had still never truly been together as husband and wife. This time, with Sisi taking the initiative, Franz finally gave in completely. After a night of passion, Franz rose early to attend to state affairs. Sisi finished washing up, lifted her skirts, and ran freely through the palace halls. At last, she slipped through a doorway and shook off all the attendants following behind her. Sisi went to visit her close friend Fanny at her home. At this time, Fanny was living in extreme poverty. Sisi wanted Fanny to return to the palace, but her own influence was still not strong enough. Fanny told her that pregnancy could be used to elevate her status. So after returning to the palace, Sisi went to find Franz. That day, she appeared before Franz wearing only a nightgown. The soft fabric traced her graceful figure, and Franz found himself completely unable to resist her. After a month of effort, Sisi's aunt noticed that her period was a week late. She immediately reported the news to the Empress Dowager. Because Sisi had previously left the palace without permission, the Empress Dowager arranged a separate residence for her so she could focus on her pregnancy. On the surface, it was called prenatal care, but in reality, it was house arrest. Sisi had no choice but to accept it. She was like a canary locked inside a gilded cage, not only stripped of her freedom, but now even deprived of the right to be alone with Franz. To deal with Franz's needs, the Empress Dowager arranged for a beautiful woman to stay by his side and attend to him.